Hey guys, so we're back with our third week of the Central Live Well Yoga Challenge. Molly is going to switch it up this week. What is the plan?
We're going to do a bit of back bending, which is my favourite and your least favourite.
No, it's my absolute favourite as well, so we're both very excited
I love your
about this
positive
week.
attitude. Okay, great.
Cool.
Okay, just before we start back bending, it is something that a lot of people aren't used to, so always I would advise in back bending to be quite mindful and be a little bit careful, because it obviously is very good for strengthening your back and your spine, but done wrong, you can injure yourself quite easily. So do take it slow.
I'll do some beginner versions just to make people feel comfortable, so I'm looking after you.
Yeah, okay. What would I do without you?
I know.
Okay, so we're going to start in a child's pose. Okay, so coming down onto your knees, you'll bring your knees wider than your hips, and then just stretch your arms out in front. So bring the forehead to the mat, and I'm just going to talk up here. While you're in your child's pose, just starting to bring a little bit of focus to your breath, starting to inhale and exhale through the nose, and allowing the weight of your body to just settle into the space on your mat. Closing the eyes, letting go of the day that you've had, and just start to listen to the sound of your breath. So like I said, just trying to be quite mindful throughout our back bends today, and try to follow the cues as much as you can. I'll offer as many modifications as I can. Okay, so from here we're going to come up into a tabletop position. So come all the way forward onto your hands and knees, stack the shoulders over your wrists, the knees underneath your hips, and we'll move through some cat-cow like we did in week 1, just to warm up the spine. So as you inhale, you're going to drop the belly, arch the spine, lift your gaze forward, lift your tailbone. And as you exhale, beginning to round through the back, pull the belly in towards the spine, tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin. Again, inhale, lengthen the heart forward, stretching the throat. Exhale, rounding through the back, pressing through the hands. One more time. Inhale, stretch the front of the torso. Exhale, round through the back. Really nice. Okay, so from here, finding a nice long spine, we're going to walk the hands forward and come into a plank with knees dropped. So you want your shoulders over your wrists and a nice long line from knees to hips to shoulders. So no collapsing into the lower back or lifting the bum. So straight line from knee to shoulders. Inhale here, and as you exhale, slowly lower all the way down to the belly. So coming to a cobra or baby cobra from here, we're going to do this with our hands hovering, okay? So you really need to use the muscles of your back. Press down through the tops of your feet, engage your thighs. Inhale, lift the hands and stretch the heart forward.
I don't think my hands are good.
Release all the way down. Well, you can do the beginner version like Pat with hands on the mat. Inhale, lift, hover the hands, squeeze your elbows back and release. One more time. Inhale to lift. And exhale, release. Okay, this time a little bit harder. If you want, you can just hold your cobra, okay? Or like me, you're going to lift and bring the hands behind the head. So a bit of spine strength here. Lift the heart a little bit higher. Hold for 5, press down through the tops of the feet for 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Okay, hands to the mat and press it all the way up and back to your downward facing dog. Tuck your toes and lift your hips. I'd say Pat is an expert at this stage. Okay, so from here we're going to come into a lunge position. So I'm going to get you to step the right foot all the way between the hands. Okay, so bringing the right knee over the right ankle and just lift the heart towards the front of your mat. So sink your hips nice and low, reach back through the left heel, engage through the legs. Now we're going to come up into a high lunge. Pat, you're going to come into a low lunge variation. Okay, so keep the back toe tucked, drop the knee to the mat. And from here, you're going to come all the way up, stack your shoulders over your hips. So sink your hips forward and down. If you are coming into the high lunge variation, if you tight quite hip flexors, you might need to just bend a little bit into the back knee or straighten out through the leg. Now a little back bend from here. So what you're going to do, you need to keep dropping your tailbone down, but just starting to lift your heart. So slowly lift the heart and maybe lift your gaze up. Okay, so already you're in a baby back bend here. If you want, you can continue to bend back. inch by inch. Okay, nice and slow. And then slowly bring the gaze all the way forward. Release the hands to your mat. Drop the left knee, and we're going to come into a half splits just to release the hip flexor. So straighten out through the right leg, flex the foot, lift your heart. You stay here maybe, or if you want, you can fold. Okay, and then from there, inhale, lift, lunge it forward and coming straight into your down dog. So tuck the left toe, lift the knee and step it all the way up and back. Okay, maybe pedal out the knees a little bit just to wake up the hamstrings a little bit more and bring a little bit of movement into the lower back. Okay, so from there, opposite side, step the left foot between the hands, coming into a runner's lunge. Lift your heart and sink your hips. So opening up through the hips a little bit, really strong through the legs. And now for beginners, Pat, we're going to drop the right knee to the mat. And we're going to lift to a low lunge. I'm going to lift to a high lunge. Float the arms overhead. Make sure your shoulders are stacked over your hips. You're dropping your tailbone and you're using your belly. Okay, so you're not flopping out through the belly. Slowly start to lift the gaze and lift your heart. So imagine your heart was floating up towards the ceiling. Keep lifting up through the fingers and maybe you'll look back a little bit. Maybe you'll breathe into it. Okay, and then slowly bringing the gaze forward, release the hands to the mat. Step it back, or no, you're going to drop the right knee and straighten up through the left leg. Flex the foot. Inhale to lengthen, and maybe if you've quite open hamstrings, you'll fold as you exhale. Okay, and then inhale, lengthen once again, lunge it forward and downward facing dog. So tuck the toe, lift the knee, and step it back to down dog. Okay, from here we're going to come into a back bend on our knees. So I'm going to get you to drop your knees to the mat. Now come to standing on your knees. So this is known as camel pose. So again, Pat, you're going to show the beginner's variation and I'm going to show the more advanced variation. So we're going to do it twice. So you want your knees stacked underneath your hips. So the knees are hip width distance. If you have a block at home, you can always bring that between your thighs to help activate through your inner thighs. Again, like in all back bends, lengthen through the lower back. So drop your tailbone a little bit and your shoulders are stacked over your hips. Now for beginners, I'm going to get you to tuck your toes. Okay, so you want the toes tucked underneath. That's going to make it easier. We're going to maybe reach our heels. Okay, so bringing the hands to your back and draw your elbows in toward each other. So imagine you're putting them into your jean pockets. Now, what a lot of people tend to do here, and they make a mistake of just hinging from their knees and trying to lean back and trying to reach the heels. That's just going to put pressure into your back. So I want you to try and keep your hips over your knees and try to just, all you have to do is think about lifting your heart, okay, and looking up towards the ceiling. That doesn't sound too scary, does it? Nope, okay. Quietness. Okay, so from here you're going to keep your hips forward and start to lift the heart. Okay, so you might keep the chin tucked towards the chest or you might look up. Okay, feeling a nice back bend. Next level is right hand to right heel and left hand to left heel. The fingers on the inside, the thumbs on the outside. See, my hips are still over my knees. Lift your heart, drop your tailbone. To come out, hands to the back and tuck the chin, shoulders over the hips, release the toes and sit all the way down. Okay.
I thought you were going to touch your head to the floor.
No.
I thought you were going straight back. No. That was okay.
I'm not a magician.
Trust is regained.
Okay, so taking a little break, just allow the spine to neutralize here and slow down the breath. So often in back bends as well, the first thing that people do is they hold their breath, which actually makes it a lot harder and tends to have people passing out, which we don't want. So always come to a place where you can still breathe. If you're seeing that the breath is starting to become really choppy, you've probably pushed yourself a little bit too far. So okay, so from here, we're going to come onto our back and do a back bend on our back, and then we'll do a little cool down. So from here, bringing your legs out in front, and we'll use our belly to come down onto the back. So bringing the soles of the feet to the mat, knees bent, feet are about hip width distance, and you're going to stretch your hands out in front. Make sure you have space behind you to lower down. Inhale to lift your heart and slowly begin to round through the lower back. So I want you to come down as slowly as you can. Really draw the navel in towards the spine. Feel vertebra by vertebra. Slowly release. And then eventually come all the way down. Okay, so from there you're going to walk the feet all the way in toward your sit bones. So this is your bridge pose. So your feet want to be at least hip width distance, which for a lot of us is about 2 fists between your feet, which can be hard to measure, but just visualize it. And your feet are parallel with each other, so no toes pointing out or toes pointing in. Okay, so feet a little bit closer together. Okay, really nice. And walk the feet as close as you can get them toward your sit bones, your bum. Okay, so from here, arms by the side of your body, the palms will face down. Walk the shoulder blades in underneath the back. Okay, really nice. And then tuck the tailbone and inhale, lift the hips all the way up. Okay, so you want to be reaching your tailbone towards your knees, squeezing through inner thighs. So don't allow the knees to fall out. You want to be hugging into imaginary block between your thighs. Lift your hips up a little bit higher. And heart lifts towards your chin. Chin is tucked towards the center of the chest. Hold for 5. Breathe for 4, 3, 2. Slowly lower from upper to middle. So if you're finding that hard, you can always lift your heels as you lower all the way down. Lower back coming down last. Okay, take a little break. Just walk your feet to the outside of your mat and allow the knees to just fall in against each other. So for our second back bend, Pat is going to do that for a second time, the beginner stage, and I'm going to work you through a full wheel. Okay, so or a crab, whatever you like to call it, there's different variations. But if you have never done a wheel before, I wouldn't advise doing it with this video, okay? It's a lot more advanced, so only for people who have done crab before.
You can get my advanced yoga DVD if you want to cover that kind of stuff.
Coming soon. Okay, so again, same setup. Pat, you're going to walk the feet hip width distance so your feet are directly underneath your knees. Imagine you're squeezing into that block and you are going to lift your hips. So it's the same setup really for the full wheel or crab. You come into your bridge and then you bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Your elbows stay tucked in and then you press into the hands. You might just come to the head. And then from there, you'll press up into your full wheel. And you might need to adjust the position of your feet. Your toes point towards the front of your mat. No toes pointing out or in. And to come down, bend the elbows, top of head to mat, maybe back of the neck and rolling down through the spine. Okay.
That was kind of cool.
Okay, so from here, we're going to work our way into our final Shavasana. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to come into a little supine twist just to release any tension from the lower back before we settle. Okay, so extend your left leg, bring the right knee in, and guide the knee to the left. Okay, so extend your right arm out nice and wide, bringing your gaze towards the right hand. Release through the lower back, breathing deeply, and slowly bringing it back to center. Mindfully switch it out, so bring the left knee in, right leg long, right hand guides the left knee to the right, look to the left. If you have space to extend the left arm, do. If not, you can just bend at the elbow. And from there, knee back to center. Okay, so we'll release into our final Shavasana, extending your legs, bring the arms by the side of your body, shoulder blades underneath the back, and just closing the eyes. Allowing the body to settle, to quieten, and to find some stillness. So try to avoid adjusting and let the breath return to its natural pace. Okay, and like before, if you would like to stay for a little bit longer, you can. And we're going to make our way up to seated. So bringing your feet to the mat, knees to chest, and coming into a fetal position on the right side. Rolling over, try to keep the eyes closed if you can, pressing all the way up to seated. Okay, finding a comfortable seat. Sitting up tall, hands to knees. And lengthen up through the spine, returning to your breath. So inhaling and exhaling deeply through the nose, and just take some time to recognize the effect of your practice. Thank yourself for coming to your mat today and for completing week 3 of your yoga challenge. And slowly bring the hands to prayer at the heart. And namaste.